the Power Bryant. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
16-team playoff makes you feel like what?
Oh, God. Okay. Well, I forgot to write this in my notes to talk to you about it. I hate it. So me and Joe talked about this last night, and I'll have the discussion with you. All right. Here are my notes on it. You ready? Why are you doing it? Bingo. To everybody listening on the podcast, Carter just gave the Johnny Manziel lingo.
The Johnny football.
The Johnny Manziel. The Johnny football. Okay. Carter, there's not 16 teams that can win this thing.
Yes.
There are a couple of things that I have a problem with here. I have a problem with auto bids, which I know that you and I have disagreed in the past.
Yeah.
But think about this. If you go to a 16-team situation, a team like Ole Miss and South Carolina gets left out and BYU is in. You get that. So if you're okay with that, then fine, back it up. But you're an idiot if you believe that.
Right. So BYU would get in because there would be two
Big 12 teams.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
SMU gets in. And Carter, me and you have watched this game religiously. Are you really going to sit here and tell me that they deserve a spot over Ole Miss or South Carolina or Alabama? Get out of my face with that. Can I be honest with you? I don't think they deserve to be in a place in there with Illinois.
Yeah, SMU was just a disaster. I know I shouldn't speak ill of LSU's future opponents because they could.
Speaking of SMU, yes. 28-29, right.
I'm excited as hell about that. I freaking love Dallas. But
and look, to SMU's credit, they're spending a shitload of money. Good on them. I felt like they got rewarded for doing it the right way. They didn't say anything about it. They put their money where their mouth was, and they got a playoff spot because of it. Good for them. I love Rhett Lashley. Love him to death.
Yeah, I'm very pro SMU. In fact, I think you can make a case that it's a top 10 job. If you want to factor, you can make a case. You can.
No, I can't. Anyway, we'll get to that another day.
Yeah. That's a different day. But as far as the 16,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I hate it. I hated 12-team expansion. They're ruining the sport that we love, and that's basically it. Now, here's the thing: I do think it helps LSU in that LSU oftentimes is that number 3 or number 4 team in the SEC, 5-ish, if you will. So it does make things easier. Go look at LSU in the final polls.
This year.
Yeah. You're oftentimes in those teens, in that range where you can get in. So it does help LSU, but Blake, it destroys me in my core because college football is the best sport we have. I agree. It is the best sport. You make it more like the NFL. You take away what makes college football great. And a 16-team playoff is a step in the right direction. And another thing that's going to be interesting, Blake, are these rumors. And these are being reported by Ross Dellinger. I've known Ross for a while. He's not going to lead anyone astray.
He doesn't report rumors.
Yes.
Not like these are things that are probably actually happening.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What they do at conference championship weekend is going to be weird, right? Like they're talking about play-in games, which I'm very pro as far as that. I'm a big play-in game guy for that game. Well, what say you? How do you feel about?
I hate them, but I'm about to get to that because you're hitting on a major point for me. But continue.
No, I'm curious, and it's on the top of your tongue. Go for
it. If you're gonna do something like that, I better not see another player ever get kicked out of a game and then lose another half of a game for targeting. Because then you just said that player safety doesn't mean shit. Carter, there is a likelihood. Think about this. Let's say that they did that for Ohio State or Ohio State this year. You know, Ohio State would have played 17 games.
So an NFL season, basically, yeah.
Yeah. But we're going to kick a kid out. We're going to kick a kid out because of player safety. But then you're adding games. Can you make that logic to me?
No. No.
Exactly.
It's a lot of tackle football. And then you have to factor in with the 16-team playoff that the SEC, and this has been told to me, and once again, I'm not Ross Dellinger. Okay, it's just not my thing. Mm-hmm. But from a trusted higher up, there's still very powerful people that want this 9th conference game. And by powerful people, that's on the media side of things, right? They want a 9th conference game. So basically, that could be in exchange, right? Because a lot of SEC teams would say, no, we don't want a 9th conference game. Like, I've done a lot of research on this. The biggest voice against this has been Mitch Barnhart in Kentucky. And he makes a good point, right? As much as I've been a vocal critic of Stoops and Kentucky and all of that, he says, look, we don't need an extra loss in our schedule. So these middle tier programs and lower, like Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, this really hurts them, right? Because if they play a 9th conference game, it's just another loss for them on average.
And Kentucky, there are other schools like South Carolina in there too that have to play Clemson at the end of the year because of rivalry weekend.
Right. And, that it makes it that much harder for them. That's why I give South Carolina. I know you love South Carolina.
It's just last year I did because 9-3 is not created equally. It never has been.
Yeah, beating Clemson on the road ended up not counting for something.
Right. It meant nothing. And so my second point to you, or my third point, would have been, what made college football unique? What made it the most unique sport was when you lost on a Saturday, it was devastating.
Yes.
It was devastating. Carter, Ohio State losing to Michigan meant nothing.
Nothing. And I want everyone, and this is the biggest point I will make on the subject, because I've been the biggest anti-expansion guy you will find, okay? For those that were in the building for, 2022 LSU Alabama, right? One of the best moments in LSU football history. What made that moment so special, Blake, wasn't just that was still the big moment of the Brian Kelly era. That's still his, outside of Jaden winning the Heisman, that's still his biggest
You kept Bama out. You kept Bama out, brother. I mean, come on.
That was it. So it wasn't just your own. It wasn't just your own feelings that you felt as an LSU fan. It's that you really hurt Nick Saban towards the end of his career with freaking Bryce Young and Will Anderson and Dallas Turner. Man, that team was freaking loaded. They very well could have won the playoff that year. And that night in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that ticket that you spent, all the tailgating, all the money that you spent to get there, that ended up being a playoff game. It really ended up being one of the most seismic wins of the last 10 years in the SEC, because I do think Alabama was very, very good that year. And if they would have gotten in, they could have won the entire thing. And, the more you expand, the less those regular season games matter. Yes. And that's where we get into branding. Why do people hate regular season games so much? Well, you tell them that it's a regular season game. No, college football games were never regular season games. They just weren't. They were phenomenal individual playoff games. If you didn't bring it versus Appalachian State, you're out. Or, for my Notre Dame haters out there, if you didn't bring it versus Northern Illinois, you were out. But no, we're just going to ruin the sport. It's going to ruin.
Well, here's the thing. It has ruined it. And I brought this up to you last weekend, and I see Joy's comment. She says, it makes it easier for LSU to embarrass themselves in a playoff spot. ? Love that for us.
Oh, the world famous Daily Joy. That's good.
But she brings up a point. I mean, what are you doing it for? In reference to your 9-conference game situation here, why would I? This is what Scott Woolward is saying to me, by the way. Do you know that the Big Ten and the SEC have come to an agreement in reference to having a game between the opponents in the beginning of the year? Right? So meaning they have come to an agreement. I don't know if you saw this, but that they're going to, and eventually this is going to be public. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to merge to have games in the beginning of the season.
So an SEC Big Ten challenge, basically.
Yes, basically. Yeah. Why would I do that if I'm South Carolina, Alabama, LSU, Georgia? Carter, it would have been, think about this. Let's say that was enacted this year. Let's say that Georgia's got to play, I don't know, let's just say Penn State in the beginning of the year. Let's not say Ohio State, but let's just say Penn State. Carter, 8 of their 12 games would have been against ranked opponents.
Yeah. I mean,
think about that for just a second.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, they played a 13th game against Texas again, who was a playoff team. So, like, what are we – everybody talks about Georgia having a down year. My brother, sorry. To the standard of what they just went through, I don't think that they did. Maybe to their standard of winning a national title, but my God. Like, my God. Like, that is pure insanity. They have ruined the sport, and I said this to you last week, and I'll bring it up again. I brought this up on SEC Unfiltered. Name something outside of expansion, which some people still don't like expansion. Name the one thing that Greg Sankey has done to help the sport in the last 5 years.
He's made everybody more money, and that's it.
Okay. Other than that, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
What has he done to help the sport?
Nothing. But nobody wants to say
out there on July the 15th. He will run out there and say and give a long speech in reference to, we need legislation. We need this. Brother, I was the one who covers the sport and watched you get absolutely abused by North Louisiana's own John Kennedy, who said, all right, if you want legislation, what do you want? Carter, he didn't have one detail that he could give John Kennedy. Because I feel like that they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. It's like I went off on coaches last week. Kirby Smart literally went to the podium 2 weeks ago and said, these agents are scum. These players that want to get their money can be scummish. My guy, it was reported the next day that Jared Curtis committed that he's going to make $1 million. On3 reported it.
If your final two schools are Georgia and Oregon.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? They talk out of both sides of their mouth. The sport is so bad, everything's so bad, and then their actions. And then people will come up in here and say, well, Blake, they got to do it to win. No, they don't. Ask Dabo.
You don't, yeah.
I mean, Dabo literally was the only one standing on business, and he got crucified, pun intended, in reference to him saying the only name, image, and not likeness that I care about is Jesus. And he made a joke about it. It was a joke. Everybody knows what he was saying was a joke. He's not wrong.
But I will tell you this. If Dabo heard you say that he was crucified, dude, he's going to have you walking down the hill. He's going to have you versus LSU. You're going to get to touch the Howard's Rock, man.
Well,
Dabo is smiling.
I just compared him to Jesus, so he's going to – yeah.
Dabo, you are – even though you're enemy number one week one, dude, Dabo is going to get that clip, and he is going to show his team.
Well, it doesn't matter to me. Speaking of Clemson, by the way, did you see Josh Pate's top 20?
Had him number one. And guess what? I agree with him.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
I would actually. I don't. I do think Texas hype is real.
I agree. I agree that they're good too.
Man, dude, they're
all right. But give me your Clemson thought. I mean, you believe the hype is real. Tell me what your thoughts on Clemson.
I think at wide receiver, we're undervaluing how loaded they are there. And, we talked so much about their defensive line, which is, going to be the strength of their team. You look at all of Dabo's best teams, you remember, obviously, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, T. Higgins, and all of that. But his best teams were with elite defensive lines. Right?
Yes.
You can make a case that Rashard Lawrence defensive line is one of the best ever to be fielded. As a Rashard Lawrence, Dexter Lawrence, excuse me. But their wide receiver room, Wesco and those guys, dude, you'd be proud of me. I was on the treadmill. I decided to watch their highlights again.
Very good. Very good young receiving core.
Dude, they're good players. They are really, really
They exposed Texas.
Yeah. And you think that's the best secondary that was in the
it was the best secondary in the country last year.
So
bar none, by the way. And they had a starting safety that went out.
Yeah, and Blake, I do think they're very good. I don't think that they are to me, Florida State in Orlando season opening good, where that Florida State
I agree with that.
was the second best team that year in college football, in my opinion, behind Georgia. Neither made the playoff. But I do think
And then Georgia spanked them.
yes, which is why the 14 playoff is great, right? Because those games matter. That game versus Alabama mattered. But I don't think Clemson's as good as that Florida State team, Blake, as we know that team was just really, really, really good. But Clemson's very good. I do believe it. And Klubnik has a lot more juice as a runner than we would like to think. And it's important to note that if you play these big games, Club is going to be more willing to run, especially knowing that Clemson, we could say a lot of different things about Dabo and the hokey folksy kind of thing. Between the headset, he is really good. Like a lot of these kind of motivational coaches aren't known for what they are between the headset. Dabo was like very good. I mean, he like when you think of those Alabama games, yeah, he beat the crap out of him and won Natty, but he made some really good high leverage decisions in those games with the best between the headset, Nick Saban across the way. So I do think this team is very good. So I don't think Josh Pate was doing a hot take or anything like that. I see it very similar.
There's a couple of things that in context that I want to add to what he said. And he didn't. And listen, I still have yet to listen to his 30-minute segment, so I don't want to put words in his mouth in reference to what he said. There's two things here. Number one, TJ Parker, their edge rusher, might be this is not a Blake Ruffino take. I don't actually agree with this take personally, but I can be wrong here, and others can be right. There are people that have TJ Parker as the number one overall player in the country right now in the draft. He has been on multiple mock drafts of being the number one player in the country. Carter, he had 20 tackles for loss last year. Now, against Texas and against Georgia, he got exposed. He got literally exposed. He didn't do anything. That's going to be a number one thing for me. Can Tyree Adams and Weston Davis really take it to them? That's number one. Number two, you need to go back and watch that Florida State Clemson game from a year ago and tell me what you think about Patrick Payton. I'm getting chills thinking about that film. My dog obliterated their offensive line. There was one snap, Carter, that they moved him inside. He had a rush on Klubnik and made him flush. The reason that game was close, because Florida State sucked. They were horrible. Go look at the disruption that Patrick Payton had against the offensive line that he knows a lot about. That's number one in that one. But, man, he also said something about LSU. He had LSU in his top 5.
Yeah.
I'm asking, do you agree with him on that one too? Do you believe LSU is a top 5 team in the country too?
I have him firmly in my top 10. I probably have him around 7 or 8 right now.
Okay.
And that's where you need to be to make the playoff, right? I as we have talked ad nauseum, I'm worried about the LSU offensive line. But I will tell you this, Blake, and you're more plugged in than I am, but I shared this yesterday on my stream. There's a very prominent person at LSU who's in the know around the whole thing. It's not a player, but he reached out to me and said, Carter, this defense really believes in themselves. And I was like,
they do. I'll give them that.
And I was like, I don't believe that because they all just got there. They don't know each other. Like, no, Carter, they really do believe that this defense is going to be.
Pause. Jack Pyburn, day one. It's when it started. I told this story 40 times already. I told it to you. Go ahead and fuck up.
Yeah.
Go ahead and don't go 100%. You go right on ahead.
Blake, I was vocal about this on your show last year going into the season. I did not think the LSU defense was ready for a full season, and it showed itself, right? I also think that the staff kind of knew that going into the year, that defensively they just did not have the thoroughbreds in the stable for what they were going to face. But now especially on the defensive side of the football, with all the money that was spent, and a lot of guys that played a lot of snaps last year are back. Okay. There are no excuses. This defense needs to be a very
It's top
good
30
defense.
or bust.
Yeah, that's like the bear. They've got to be ridiculously good this year. And I know that so much of what you do defensively comes down to the quarterback you're facing. This is going to be such a difficult schedule in terms of quarterbacks. I will also admit, Blake, today was the first day that I really sat down and watched John Mateer of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I did not know he was he's close to being
Carter.
really, 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 really good as good of a runner as some of these other guys on
Yes.
LSU. That his runs were freaking ridiculous.
Hold on. Pause. And before you say that, oh, the dude was at Washington State, the number one pick in the country before going to Miami was at Washington State with the same dude, the same OC.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Mateer's a dog, brother. Think about this. You have of the teams that he had in his top 20, you faced 7 of them.
Yes.
And So remember 2 weeks ago when you and I had the conversation about LSU? I mean this I mean this in my core. I think you have the toughest schedule in the country. You're going to have to start now. I understand that it's preseason and football comes here, and my take could be completely wrong. I know that you're facing 7 really freaking good quarterbacks that can beat you. That's the part where and to your point about the defense, that's why they got to be so damn good.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, we haven't even talked about Bama. I mean, we have no idea what's going to happen at quarterback there. So it could be 8 teams that you're facing really strong quarterbacks, brother.
Yeah. I'll be honest, man. I do think this LSU defense will be good. I will say though, Blake, I did a deep dive on it. Anyone could go see it. In my thumbnail, it says RYBC. LSU.
Is it RYBC?
Yes. LSU was the worst rush yards before contact.
Oh, I saw this. Yes.
SEC play per SEC StatCat defense ever. So we have got to do a better job defending the run. All right.
We have to. I hear you, dog. She agrees with you. That's all she's saying.
Yeah. Well, let me go deal with this as always.
All right. Well, can I ask you one more question before we leave?
Of course. Ain't gone in.
Well, I was going to ask you about Derek Carr.
Oh, F him. That's all I got to say. Huh?
Carter Bryant. We'll see you next week, buddy.
All right, buddy. Cheers.